Florida politicians just made a shocking $37 billion mistake that's destroying the state's entire tourism economy. Canadian snowbirds who spend $33,000 each winter are abandoning Florida in droves, and what lawmakers did next is almost impossible to believe. This isn't about hurricanes or pandemics. This is about political decisions that turned paradise into an economic disaster zone. Let me tell you something most people don't understand about Florida tourism. The state's entire economy depends on visitors, especially Canadian tourists who aren't just vacationers. These are snowbirds who stay for entire winters, pumping billions into local businesses. They're Florida's secret weapon. The customers who keep restaurants open, hotels full, and entire communities thriving during what should be the slow season. Then everything changed. When Trump called Canada the 51st state and imposed heavy tariffs, Canadians didn't just get mad at Washington. They got mad at America, and Florida paid the price. Congressman Jared Moscowitz reported a shocking 80% drop in Canadian tourists. Richard Cleet, who owns hotels in Hollywood, Florida, watched his Canadian guests disappear overnight. His bookings plummeted 50% as visitors boycotted the U.S. over Trump's comments about their prime minister. The Canadian boycott was already devastating Florida tourism when state politicians looked at this crisis and decided to make it worse. The Florida House of Representatives passed a bill eliminating all 62 tourist development councils across the state. These councils are the marketing engine that promotes Florida tourism worldwide, funds beach restoration, and attracts major events. Getting rid of them is like McDonald's firing their entire marketing department and expecting people to still know about their products. The numbers are absolutely catastrophic. Tourist development councils collect nearly $2 billion annually from hotel taxes. According to Florida Politics Analysis, eliminating these councils would trigger a $37 billion hit to the economy and destroy $22.5 billion in wages. Florida politicians were willing to sacrifice $37 billion in economic activity to give residents a $60 property tax break. The math is so insane, it's almost comical, except millions of real jobs hang in the balance. Robert Scrow, executive director of Destinations Florida, called this exactly what it is: economic sabotage. He warned that gutting tourism promotion would gamble with the livelihoods of more than 2 million Floridians. We're talking about hotel workers, restaurant servers, and small business owners whose families depend on Florida tourism to survive. Here's what makes this crisis even more shocking. Florida tourism was actually breaking records in some areas. The state welcomed 142.9 million visitors in 2024, generating over $150 billion in economic impact. Florida was winning, but politicians decided short-term political points mattered more than protecting the tourism economy that supports 2.1 million jobs. Meanwhile, the Canadian boycott keeps accelerating. Canadian car visits to the U.S. dropped 34% in August 2025, according to Forbes. Tourism economics data revealed Canadian visitation down 25.2% year-over-year. These aren't just statistics. Walk through Fort Myers Beach and you'll see boarded-up shops. Drive through Clearwater and for sale signs are everywhere on properties that used to house Canadian snowbirds every winter. Governor Ron DeSantis seems completely oblivious to the severity of this Florida tourism crisis. At the 2025 Florida Governors Conference on Tourism, he announced only 640,000 Canadian visitors in the second quarter, a 20% drop from the previous year. But DeSantis acted like everything was fine. Brian Griffin from Visit Florida tried spinning the situation, claiming Florida tourism is seeing increases from places like Brazil, but replacing Canadian tourists who spend thousands and stay for months isn't that simple. Different tourists have different spending patterns. Canadians weren't just visitors to Florida. They were seasonal residents with favorite restaurants, regular grocery stores, relationships with local businesses. When they left, they took decades of economic relationships with them. You can't just replace that overnight with tourists from other countries. Annie Holcomb, a vacation rental executive in Panama City, explained why the Tourist Development Council cuts would devastate Florida tourism. Every sunny destination competes for tourism dollars. Mexico wants them. The Caribbean wants them. Other U.S. states want them. The moment Florida stops marketing effectively, those destinations are ready to capture Florida's market share. The ripple effects extend far beyond hotels and restaurants. Sports tourism depends on TDC funding to attract major tournaments and events. Without these councils, Florida communities lose their ability to compete for conventions and international visitors. As one industry expert warned, if you destroy the TDT, you destroy Florida's ability to compete. What makes this situation more maddening is how completely preventable it was. Texas attracts millions of visitors without insulting neighboring countries. California brings in international tourism without destroying their promotional infrastructure. But Florida politicians chose political theater over protecting the Florida tourism economy that 2 million people depend on. Carol Dover, president of the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association, acknowledged that the hospitality industry faces real challenges. Even the best management can't overcome political decisions that systematically drive away your biggest customers. Trust takes years to rebuild, and Canadians are now choosing Brazil, Europe, or simply staying home instead of visiting Florida. The irony is thick. DeSantis promotes Florida as the free state, but heavy-handed political rhetoric has made visitors feel unwelcome. Officials talk about promoting Florida's world-class amenities, but it's impossible to attract families when your policies alienate entire nationalities. As Florida heads into the crucial winter tourism season, critical questions remain unanswered. Will Canadian tourists ever return in the same numbers? Can Florida replace billions in lost tourism revenue? Will international tourists look at how Florida treated Canadians and vacation elsewhere? Most importantly, will politicians learn from their mistakes or continue prioritizing political posturing over economic reality? The answers will determine whether Florida rebuilds its tourism economy or slides deeper into economic disaster. Empty hotel rooms, shuttered businesses, and unemployed workers prove one lesson harshly. When politicians declare war on their biggest customers, everybody loses. This didn't have to happen. Florida's beaches are still beautiful. Disney World is still there. The infrastructure that made Florida a tourism powerhouse remains intact. But in the tourism business, perception is everything, and Florida's perception problem is massive right now. So what happens next? Can Florida recover from this self-inflicted economic wound? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you want more deep dives into how politics destroys economies, smash that subscribe button because Florida's story is just the beginning. Thanks for watching.